You don't have to, again, subjectively go, oh, did the brush have matter on it? Did it not have it on there? It's straight up one pull through. We're going to go ahead and pass through if there's additional bioburden that comes on out. But again, that's typically not the case. So it saves time again. And then again, efficiency wise, it's not my eye versus your eye.
Rising above the buzz of ultrasonic cleaners and the clanking of stainless steel are the ideas and voices that are changing an industry. You're listening to the Beyond Clean podcast, the central nexus for the people, processes, and products that are improving our sterile processing world. Each week, we speak with frontline technicians, CEOs, engineers, and entrepreneurs with a common goal to help you fight dirty. Every instrument, every time. Whether you are tuning in for education or inspiration, we're glad you did. Now turn on those washers and turn up the volume. It's time to go beyond clean.
On this Vendor Spotlight, we speak with Jason Minutillo, Director of Quality for SPD and High-Level Disinfection for UCHealth. And we're going to be highlighting the PULL THRU Cleaning Brush technology and range of products that are manufactured by FR Galantai Manufacturing Company Limited, a company based in New Zealand. And this is a really innovative product and solution for cleaning channels and lumens of flexible endoscopes. And we're going to be learning about what exactly is this PULL THRU technology. And Jason is an end user. His organization has adopted the use of this technology. So he's not only going to be telling us about the PULL THRU range of products, but he's also going to be talking about what it was like to get it implemented at his facilities and what they saw as benefits. And we're also going to be talking about some studies, but at the end of the day, it's all about being repeatable and consistent with these cleaning processes, because there's always been a lot of conversation about how do we effectively train our staff to clean flexible endoscopes. And there's been a movement for more and more that sterile processing manage flexible endoscope cleaning and high-level disinfection. And so I think even more interest from that area on topics like today's. And so I'm excited to get into it with Jason. We're going to be right back after a short break.
From 17 Studios, you're listening to Beyond Clean, the global voice of sterile processing.
Joining me now is Jason Minutillo, Director of Quality for SPD and High-Level Disinfection for UCHealth. And Jason, I really appreciate you coming on the show today, mostly because this is a very unique interview. You're somebody who is an end user of the PULL THRU Cleaning Brush that we're going to be talking about today. And so being able to talk to you about your experience and the company and really the unique value proposition that they have and the product that they brought to market, I think really distinguishes you from a lot of the other spotlight conversations we've had. So thanks so much for coming on.
Absolute pleasure, Justin. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
So, Jason, I think, always starting off, we like to hear a little bit about the people that we're going to be speaking with, their background, even some of their interests and focus areas in sterile processing. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Been in sterile processing for over 20 years. Started out as a baseline tech, went up through the career ladder, now a director of quality for sterile processing, high-level disinfection for UCHealth, the metro region. Actually, I'm over 7 hospitals. And yeah, my interest has always been really expanding the understanding of SPD and GI. It is a crazy world that most people do not understand or fully, completely get.
So, Jason, I'm just curious. We're going to be talking about the PULL THRU Cleaning Brush, which is manufactured by FR Galantai. And they've been making plastics injection molded products since 1976. So I'm curious, how did you come across the PULL THRU Cleaning Brush? How did they find you?
So interestingly enough, I do regulatory tracers on all of the hospitals and sites I go to. And one of my managers for the site came to me and said, "Hey, we are going to be bringing in this brush. What do you think of it?" I had already been, investigating some different things because, again, trying to improve quality within GI labs. And so I was aware of it, and I was excited to see that one of my frontline managers was actually going to be bringing it in. So once they brought it in, I was part of the process of watching it go live. And from there, expanding of, you're more than welcome to use it. How do you go about utilizing it? And really seeing the differences, which is really cool.
Well, I know we're going to get into that a lot more as we, talk through this today, but everybody knows that endoscope reprocessing has been pretty challenging. I mean, prior to the pandemic, you look at things like superbug outbreaks, and those are probably the top conversation around infection control until the pandemic. And now I think people are paying more attention again as we're kind of stabilizing. But it's really the cleaning of these devices that has been such a challenge. And so I think coming up with a product that's new and innovative to meet some of those challenges is critical. But what else was kind of going on for you and your team that really brought this forward? Like, why did they say, "Hey, here's things that are going on in the department. This is why we need this"? What was their experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was actually a frontline tech that actually brought it to the manager. They basically said, "Hey, I found this." They were doing some research for their career ladder, basically. And so they brought it to the manager. Manager brought it to me because I'm that quality person. And like I said, I was already kind of looking at it. So it was pretty cool to see frontline staff engaging in the process already. But yeah, really, really cool to see them engage, bring something to the manager, because that's what you want. You want the frontline staff to bring it to forebear.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, everybody in the industry knows if it's not clean, it can't be disinfected. It can't be sterile, right? And these are areas of the flexible scopes that are not easily visualized. And I'd say a lot of the technologies that allow you to do that, there's been very low adoption. And, even then having a consistent process, right, to make sure that the channels are cleaned properly, because at the end of the day, if we don't clean the equipment properly, that's a significant source of, potential for, transmission of infection. And, I think a lot of times the evidence is, not always really prevalent to the frontline staff, right? Your managers might be aware of that. What kind of information did you get that sort of substantiated, why you knew that this product was going to make a difference?
Well, so once it was brought to my attention, like I said, I was already involved with reading some of the studies and everything else like that. That's my role. So I was seeing some of these studies coming out around the cleaning process, and more importantly, the efficacy of the cleaning process, how to make it more efficient and so on. And, I had seen these pull-through brushes kind of starting to hit the radar. So again, we just went ahead and said, well, let's trial them out. Let's bring them into the GI lab and start, processing them through. The cool part is it's very targeted. You're kind of mentioned already around the efficiency and efficacy. You want the staff to be able to duplicate that process over and over and over. And that's what these pull-through brushes allow you to do. It's pretty cool to see that because, again, we talk about, you guys talk about, Beyond Clean talks about, weapons of microbial destruction. This is like an assassin brush, it literally assassinates the process of pull through. It's effective, it's quick, it's efficient, and it's one-time use.
I love the term assassin brush. That's such a great way to describe it. And one of the things that I know that's really important now too is just reducing time, right? Because the staffing issues that are out there, if we can, you mentioned efficiently, but was there time saved in utilizing the pull-through cleaning brush as well?
Well, so, you can talk about the study pieces, and I know that the pull-through group has those studies kind of out there, but they actually did studies showing, a 93% reduction just by doing one pass-through with single brush versus a double brush. And that's ultimately what you want, right? So if you're having to continuously brush that lumen channel over and over and over, and you're still seeing gunk come on out, that's not good. Whereas this is pretty efficient. Again, 93%, it's pretty incredible. So saves time.
Another thing as I learned about the company was really there's a big issue. It used to be supply chain was something nobody knew about. And then all of a sudden you could be walking around any grocery store or any package store and people would see empty shelves and say, oh, hashtag supply chain issues, right? And so all of a sudden, I'd say the general public, not just folks that are working in healthcare or working specifically in supply chain jobs, are very well aware of these, supply chain concerns. And what's interesting is, everything is manufactured in New Zealand by the company with really minimal raw materials that are needed, right? Plastic resins. And it doesn't require a lot of space to store several years of that resin. And they're also really targeted towards this because their packaging utilizes recyclable materials. And their plant, and this is really a big thing. I want to give kudos to New Zealand as a country, but the plant is running on 70 to 80% renewable energy. And that's another thing that I think people are becoming more and more concerned about is the environment. And so sustainability means a lot of different things. Sustainability can mean the environment, but it can also mean your ability to continue to deliver products. But really, we found and we learned in healthcare that we were not as resilient as we needed to be over the last few years. And I know lots of supply chains are looking at companies that are going to be resilient and be able to, stand up to that should there ever be supply chain disruption again. And I think that's, there's an ethical piece to this, but there's also just when you bring in a product like this, you want to know that you're not going to be dealing with back orders.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Again, what we did with that, again, like I said, because we didn't mandate that, all of our techs had to use it, that kind of helped with we'll say the supply chain issue. But I will say, out of, 16 techs that are using that across our region, I would say we are a good mixture of about, 15, 14 of them using it on a regular basis. 2 of them maybe using it infrequently. I do have the one, of course, just like anybody else, that's the hold off and sticking to standardized brushes. But, it's very interesting to see even through all that, the supply chain never really dipped. We didn't have any issues, which was fantastic.
Yeah, it's forefront of mind. And I think also you just described a little bit earlier about the consistency. You said you wanted it to be something that's repeatable. And how does that play, like, as you've seen this product in use, as far as the consistency of it? Because I got to think I remember doing a lot of education on brushes, and there'd be an acrylic tip and you had to make sure that all the way exited. Like, I feel like there's a lot of training with manual cleaning brushes. Did that process improve or make it easier, with the pull through?
Yeah. So you just alluded to that. So the IFUs for a lot of these GI endoscopes talk about you have to push through the brush all the way through the distal tip or through the channel or whatever, and it comes out, and you're supposed to rub your fingers over the bristles looking for, we'll say, flecks of bioburden or whatever to come on off. And the problem with that is it's subjective. It's your eye versus my eye. Did I see something fly off? Did I not? And obviously it's underwater as well. So you got magnification issues. You might have lighting issues. Whereas this is one pull through, it's a squeegee effect. It's actually pretty cool. It creates a suction and pulls the detergent along with it through the channel. You don't have to, again, subjectively go, oh, did the brush have matter on it? Did it not have it on there? It's straight up one pull through. We're going to go ahead and pass through if there's additional, bioburden that comes on out. But again, that's typically not the case. So it saves time again. And then again, efficiency wise, it's not my eye versus your eye.
You just described this seal and the squeegee effect, which I really understood, this squeegee effect kind of coming down through the channel. But you said something else about it pulling kind of the cleaning solution, right? The detergent, the enzymatic detergent through at the same time. That's a pretty interesting concept as well. Can you describe that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So with a standardized brush, you're just pushing brush through the channel. You're not actually grabbing any solution. Hopefully you're getting solution through there. If you've done the appropriate IFU process, there is solution in that channel. But most places will say struggle with that. And so it's immediately start brushing. Whereas this, if you put that there and you're underwater, again, following IFUs, that pulls detergent into the channel ahead of the brush squeegees, and it actually pulls through all the way through the distal tip of the scope and all the way to the working end of the scope as well, or the plug-in process scope.
So I'm feeling like, does that help with the cleaning process then as well? This suction action?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, so again, you're not just using bristles to hopefully create a mechanical action. You're actually, because of that squeegee effect, you're creating a seal, and it's going through the channel, and it's actually matching it up to some of the imperfections inside of the channel. So you're actually catching all of those stuff, all of the bioburden, excess biofilm, instead of being pushed through by brush bristles. Hopefully with this squeegee effect, it's actually pulling it through with the solution, which is great.
So I'm also kind of thinking, like, especially with, I don't know, maybe clips or stents, sometimes there are objects, not just, I know we're talking about gross debris and bioburden, but there's objects that are utilized throughout the procedure that can sometimes get in there. And I almost see the squeegee effect as making sure that those come through versus if they've kind of gotten stuck in there, that a brush might just brush past it. And never mind the fact that, are you even using the right size brush, right? Like, there's a challenge in the industry with people being aware of the diameter of a channel and using the right sized brush. Whereas I'm assuming with the squeegee, you're not really running into that issue. Cause if I had a brush that didn't have the right diameter, it could pass by some of these objects pretty easily, couldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. So that's actually what we'll say predicated the tech, our frontline tech, from actually investigating these brushes. There was, issues around potential stent being captured inside of the channel. So they were like, well, how could we maybe either use some sort of device to look down the channel, or do we have a better cleaning apparatus? And that's exactly what kind of came into play with this use is, oh, wow, there's actually a way for this, because of the squeegee effect, it creates kind of a suction. So it does pull through items potentially, stuck in there, not just biofilm and bioburden and gross stuff, but actually potentially stents or whatever else that might be located inside of the channel.
Yeah. There's a summary of studies that are showing the improved performance with the pull through brush versus these bristle brushes like we've talked about. And we have bonus content that's going to be available on the smartphone app. So if anybody wants to see that for themselves, we talked about sometimes studies aren't really made available to the front lines, but if you're listening to this podcast, you'll have access to that information if you download the Beyond Clean smartphone app for iPhone or Android. But I also wanted to talk about, some studies, like we see so much research from Corey Ofsted and Associates. I thought maybe you could add some of that research to the conversation as well.
Yeah. So, I sit on Ofsted and Associates. I sit on their, I don't know what you want to call it, a board or whatever, but, I sit on their research group and talk through with a lot of frontline managers, operational leaders, and so on and so forth. And a lot of those conversations come into play of, how are we doing with our cleaning? Because that, again, back to the age-old adage, if it isn't clean, it can't be high-level disinfected or sterilized. And she's done so many studies on, and her group has done so many studies on cleaning efficiency. Should we be doing boroscope inspection and so forth? But one of the things that she has looked at is these pull-through brushes, and it has shown that, again, there is an effective and more importantly, less subjective way of cleaning the scope.
So in some of these studies, they've actually mentioned the pull-through brush.
To be clear, Ofsted and Associates doesn't necessarily call out this specific apparatus. What they do call out is cleaning efficiencies, and that is necessarily called out in pull-through studies around this brush, showing effective cleaning at 93%.
All right. So I have one more question I definitely want to ask you, and it's really around, conversion, implementation, training, like execution when you're bringing in a new product, right? Sometimes that can be quite an undertaking. And I think some people are like, oh, I just don't want to bring in a new product right now. I don't want to have to deal with the training. Can you talk about how simple it was to teach people how to use the product and, get them sort of up and running with it? And, what are the competencies like for using the pull through line of
Absolutely.
products?
So, the nice thing is when you have frontline staff bringing the product to forebear, it's a lot easier to have some buy-in with regards to that. With that being said, because we didn't mandate that you have to use the pull-through brush, and the reason why is we wanted to get some, we'll say, buy-in to a bunch of staff starting to utilize it. I think eventually we'll do a full conversion, but for right now, it's not a you need to use. It's more of you can use. It makes it that much easier for staff to get comfortable using a product. I think, everybody inherently is afraid of change. So forcing a change versus allowing the change to organically happen, that's what's really been going on. Like I said, I remember the first time I saw it in use, I praised that tech during the tracer. I said, tell me why are you, using that? And she said, well, I was concerned there might be a stent left over in this. And so I'm cleaning it because that's what I learned from the in-service that was performed by, Medivator is actually one of the distributors. And yeah, I was like, that's awesome. So, have you showed this to your other fellow GI techs? Yeah, I have. But now that I know that it does what it says it's going to do and it feels like it's faster, I'm going to tell all of my friends, and so that's just organically traveled from, one tech. Like I said, now we're at, 15 at our main campus using it. We're starting to potentially branch it out into our offsite or our smaller hospitals in our region. So
I think about that so much, and it's really the reason why I asked that question. When you look at offsite locations and just in sterile processing in general, there's a big movement, into ASCs, et cetera. And, just making sure the competencies are in place and the training is up to par. And then you look at the GI world, and it's kind of been challenged with that for a long, long time already because of the clinic setting. And many times the people that are doing the cleaning with the scopes are people that wear multiple hats. They're not just experts in cleaning and disinfection, right? And so I would think that as you look at improving cleaning practices, you would want a product that's really easy to train on, easy to use, somewhat intuitive. And I can see that being a huge advantage, especially when you talk about inspection. And I think that's an area where it takes a lot of experience and training. That learning curve is to what to look for. So using a product that will help to ensure that there's no, remaining objects or bioburden, gross debris in those channels, really can help improve, again, that repeatability, that efficiency, the consistency of the process. And so that's really why I asked that question is, do people just gravitate towards the product? And it sounds like from your experience, that's the case.
If I can add something there, the additional piece of that is it's the trust but verify methodology too, right? So that's where my role comes into play is it's not me operationalizing this. This is me coming through and doing an inspection of not only, standardization, GI processes, competencies, the whole 9 yards. It is also working with those operational teams to go, what's the best process based on our policies, procedures, competencies to make this work and flow for you? And so that's where that win comes into play because again, operationally, they're just trying to get the work done. If you have somebody like myself, again, not everyone has that luxury come through and inspect from a regulatory perspective. You can go ahead and verify, hey, you're doing the process correctly, but you're also showing efficiencies, which that's a win. I mean, if you show the operational leader to then that goes to the physicians, even at an ASC, for instance, hey, yeah, we've cut 10 minutes out of our process, but we still did everything we were supposed to do. That's a win.
All right. Well, one of the great things is that they have very competitive pricing. To get details on that or product samples, et cetera, you can contact them directly or their local distributor for a demo pack. And that contains a short length of channel and a pull-through brush. So you dip one end of the tube into a cold cup of coffee and you can see how well the pull-through brush works, but don't drink the coffee afterwards. And then their website, pullthru.net.nz. So that's pullthru.net.nz. You can also email them directly, info@pullthru.net.nz. They're on LinkedIn. On Twitter, you can follow them at pull_through_brush. Jason, this was a great conversation. And I'd say a big reason why is because you have direct experience with the product, and not even just personally, but in going back and conducting your assessments of the staff and seeing that adoption over time once the product was introduced, I just think is hugely valuable.
Well, again, it's, in this world, it's everything about trust but verify. And so ultimately, the only way we can guarantee that we're giving the best patient care possible is if, again, we're looking for efficiencies in the system, we're following the instructions for use, and we're not invalidating the 510Ks that these device manufacturers are doing or using to create their devices. And again, this device doesn't do any of that except provide the efficiencies, which is huge.
All right, Jason, really nice job. I appreciate you coming on the show today, and thank you for giving us that firsthand experience.
Absolutely.
That was Jason Minutillo, Director of Quality for SPD and High-Level Disinfection for UCHealth. And I just really appreciated Jason's experience with the product in the conversation today. So important. And I think he really highlighted trust, but verify. And I think that's a constant theme that we live throughout in sterile processing. And whenever we're utilizing new products or existing products, must always verify that process. And really that's Jason's role. But this pull through cleaning brush and range of products is really a revolutionary and innovative design. It's a big change from what we've been used to. And as we continue to find more effective ways to clean, I think new technologies with new concepts. And I think it's just really important that we continue to push the industry forward and take a look at new products that are doing things in new and different ways. And I love this pull through technology, especially because of like retained objects or verifying that there's no gross debris that is still in the scope. And one of the things that Jason talked about was minor defects like scratches within the channel. And this pull through action really helps ensure that those areas are getting addressed in the cleaning process. So I do want to remind everyone that you can go on to our smartphone app for iPhone or Android, and you can see the studies that are showing the improved performance of the pull-through brush versus bristle brushes. It's really great content. If you just click on this Vendor Spotlight episode and click on the gift box, you'll be able to review that documentation. As I mentioned, they've got competitive pricing, and you can contact the local distributor for a demo pack. See the website, pullthrough.net.nz. That's pullthru.net.nz, or email them info@pullthrough.net.nz. Find them on LinkedIn, and they're also on Twitter, the handle @pull_through_brush, and through is spelled THRU. So that's going to do it for this Vendor Spotlight. Do appreciate everybody for tuning in. And as a reminder, the best way to follow our content is to download that smartphone app for iPhone or Android. But if you love Apple, Amazon, or Google Podcasts, you can find us there. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify. And really, if you have another favorite podcast application, simply search for Beyond Clean. We always love feedback, and feedback around guests, season themes, topics for certain episodes. You can send an email with any feedback to us at info@beyondclean.net. Thank you for listening to this Vendor Spotlight on Beyond Clean.